At midnight in Tehran, the sun rose, but it wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a colossal fireball created by American and Israeli missiles plunging straight into the heart of Iran. The clock reads exactly 4:12. While we speak, we are analyzing how Israel's Roaring Lion operation tore apart the strategic backbone of Iran, reducing 4 decades of military architecture to rubble in mere seconds. If you manage to sleep tonight, when you wake up you will find that the Middle East you once knew is already history. There is no place to hide. Diplomacy is dead. Now is the time to speak plainly about how Israel plunged Iran into complete digital and military darkness. Everything began on the night of March 1, 2026. The Israeli Air Force, IAF, carried out the most complex and devastating air campaign in history. Israel's F-35 Adir stealth fighters slipped into Iranian airspace undetected. But these jets weren't just carrying bombs, they brought advanced cyber attack packages that software paralyzed Iran's much-vaunted Bavar 373 and Russian-supplied S-400 air defense systems before they could even power up. According to the latest reports, in the first hours of the operation Israel struck Iran's air defense command centers. Iranian operators stared at radar screens filled with thousands of ghost aircraft while the real F-35s were already over Tehran. Israel didn't just target military sites, it systematically severed the nerve endings of Iran's retaliation capability. Right now, Tehran has no internet, military radios are jammed, and the Revolutionary Guards cannot issue orders to their own units. This is the largest, blinding, operation in modern warfare history. Israel's primary objective was never a secret: to end Iran's nuclear dream forever. Satellite imagery taken on the morning of March 2 reveals a horrifying reality. Israel's bunker-busting GBU-57s and upgraded Spice 2000 bombs penetrated 80 meters underground, breaching what was considered impenetrable mountain protection at Fordow. The sequential strike technique shattered the concrete armor. Pentagon sources confirm that Iran's nuclear program has been set back at least 20 years, with approximately 90% of its centrifuges destroyed. This is not merely a loss of facilities, it is the complete removal of Iran's most powerful deterrence card from the table. Israeli Prime Minister's brief post-operation statement summed it up: the threat was at our door. Now that door no longer exists. Iran's greatest pride, the vast underground missile cities, became its biggest vulnerability in this operation. Israeli and American intelligence had mapped every entrance and exit of these tunnels for years. When the operation began, Israeli missiles did not target launchers, they struck tunnel entrances and ventilation systems. The result? Thousands of ballistic missiles are now trapped underground. Whenever Iran attempts to bring missiles to the surface for retaliation, Israeli drones waiting overhead destroy them within seconds. The IDF reports that more than 1,500 medium and long-range missiles have been neutralized before they could be fired. Iran's famous missile rain threat has been buried alive inside its own tunnels by Israel itself. Israel's strikes were not limited to kinetic bombs. Running in parallel was the Iron Cyber campaign, which simultaneously targeted Iran's oil refineries, port management systems, and banking infrastructure. As of today, Iran's oil exports have dropped to 0%. The terminals at Abadan and Bandar Abbas are burning. This spells total chaos for the Iranian people. ATMs are offline, gas stations have kilometer-long lines, and food distribution has ground to a halt. Israel is forcing the Iranian regime not only into military defeat but into internal collapse. The population's rage against the regime, combined with the sound of exploding bombs, has created a level of tension in Tehran streets unseen since 1979. Israel's blow to the heart of Iran has also left its proxy forces decapitated. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is in complete disarray after losing command and control signals from Tehran. Israel has severed all munitions supply routes along the Lebanon-Syria border and destroyed Hezbollah's stockpiles from the air. Similarly, the Houthis in Yemen have lost effectiveness in the Red Sea now that Iranian technical support has been cut off. With this operation, Israel has effectively crushed the head of the snake, and the rest of the body is now writhing in agony. Regions long under Iranian hegemony are now being introduced to the new security architecture shaped by Israel. The biggest question mark remains: why are Russia and China merely watching? The truth is that Israel calculated the global power balance very carefully before launching this operation. Russia, bogged down in the Ukrainian quagmire, has depleted much of its own munitions and fears nuclear escalation. China, unwilling to risk direct war with the United States, is prioritizing the protection of its economic interests. Israel successfully exploited this silence to isolate Iran completely. When Iranian leadership saw that their long-trusted allies could only issue condemnation statements, they finally understood just how vulnerable they truly were. My friends, when we wake up on the morning of March 5, 2026, the world will no longer be the same. In just 5 days, Israel erased 40 years of Iran's strategic depth. Is this the prelude to regime change? Or the spark that will reduce the entire Middle East to ashes? Israel's overwhelming military dominance has rewritten the regional balance of power. The cards are being reshuffled, and this time Iran is no longer at the table. If these strikes continue, Iran's transformation into a full, failed state is no longer a possibility, it is becoming a probability. When history writes about that dark night when 4 decades of Middle Eastern order came to an end, it will begin with the sonic booms echoing across Tehran's skies. Those weren't just windows shattering, they were the myth of an invincible regime being torn to pieces. Every Iranian who looked up that night saw the same thing: inevitable, suffocating helplessness. Today we are witnessing not only the destruction of buildings, but the collapse of an entire ideology, a strategic architecture, and a global blackmail system that held the world hostage for generations. Brace yourselves, the Great Reset button has been pressed. It all started when Iran's greatest leverage, the Strait of Hormuz, was turned against it. For years Tehran threatened to choke global oil flows. In sea lock operations, its famous speedboats and mine-laying vessels were hunted from the sky before their engines could even start. The strait is no longer a blackmail tool, it has become a secure energy corridor guarded by Israel and its new Arab partners. This is the exact moment Iran's ability to hold the global economy hostage was reduced to zero. But the real blow landed long before the smell of gunpowder reached the streets. It came from cyberspace. Israeli cyber units planted such a sophisticated backdoor into Iran's national power grid that the country was plunged into pitch-black darkness within minutes. Defense factories, government buildings, command centers, everything went dark. This is the largest digital siege in recorded history. Iranian engineers trying to restore systems are being instantly countered by AI-driven sleeper viruses that reactivate the moment any fix is attempted. On the kinetic front, Israel delivered what can only be described as strategic amnesia to Iran's nuclear dream. At Natanz and Fordow, it wasn't just structures that were destroyed, cyber operations wiped 20 years of nuclear archives clean. Physical facilities can eventually be rebuilt, erased institutional memory cannot. Israel has now pushed its defensive frontier 500 kilometers eastward. Missiles are being intercepted the moment they leave the launcher by mobile Iron Dome batteries operating in neighboring airspace. This combined military technological devastation has left Iran's external arms decapitated. With cash and munitions cut off from Tehran, proxy forces in Iraq and Syria are disintegrating. Militias that once fought for Iran are now selling their weapons on the black market just to survive. Inside the regime itself, fear is shifting from external attack to internal palace coup. The army and Revolutionary Guards are blaming each other while assassination teams quietly eliminate key figures. Economically, Iran is facing financial execution. The Rial lost 90% of its value in 2 days. Israel's cyber freeze of overseas assets has ended the regime's ability to pay its own soldiers. Remember, a state that cannot pay salaries cannot hold rifles. Globally, Tehran has been left completely alone. Moscow's silence is no coincidence. Reports suggest Russia quietly gave a green light to Iran's dismantling in exchange for concessions elsewhere. China, panicked over energy security, has abandoned ideology for pragmatism and bowed to Israel's newly established regional security architecture. The axis of resistance is finished. In its place stands a new order protected by Israeli technological dominance and backed by silent Arab consent. As we reach the end of this video, one piercing question remains: has Israel truly brought lasting peace with this victory, or has it created a massive power vacuum that will unleash even greater chaos? Will Iran accept the heaviest defeat in its 1,000-year history, or will a wounded lion use its final breath to set the entire world ablaze? The board has been cleared. The pieces are being reset. And this time, Iran is no longer in the game. Those who believe that war is won only with gunpowder and steel realized their mistake when they watched the massive collapse of global stock markets. Israel's surgical precision in targeting Iran's energy infrastructure has effectively severed the jugular vein of the global economy. The panic currently gripping the oil markets makes the 1973 oil crisis look like child's play. Crude oil prices skyrocketing past $150 overnight isn't just a number. It means the price of every product on every market shelf from Berlin to Tokyo, and New York to Istanbul, is doubling. As Iran's oil terminals go up in flames, the global supply chain is perishing within those same fires. Shipping insurance premiums have surged by 400%, which means no trade route is safe anymore. The total paralysis of the Iranian central bank by Israeli cyber attacks was, in fact, part of an experiment. What happens when you completely erase a state's financial system? The answer is terrifying: the entire life savings of a nation vanished in a single night. This is not just the bankruptcy of one country, it is a regional economic black hole. And this black hole has already begun to pull in the currencies of neighboring nations. The military toll on the ground is far beyond any predictions. According to data shared by the Israeli military, 60% of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's command structure was liquidated within the first 72 hours. However, the price of this victory is steep. The desperate but lethal wave of retaliation launched by Iran's remaining ballistic missiles has left irreparable damage in Israel's central civilian settlements and strategic ports. Even though the Iron Dome and Arrow systems operated with 95% success, the saturation attacks, where dozens of missiles rained down every second, tore holes in the defensive lines. We are seeing thousands of casualties and industrial zones turned to rubble. Modern warfare is no longer at the front, it is right in the heart of the city. Iran's strategy of 1,000 cuts may not have toppled Israel, but it has exhausted the military stockpiles of both sides. Pentagon reports whisper that precision-guided munition stocks in the region have fallen below critical levels. This implies that the region no longer has the stamina to withstand another major war. What kind of world will rise from this wreckage? This is where the truly chilling analysis begins. According to our forecasts, Iran will now struggle to maintain a centralized state structure. A fragmented Iran could enter a process of Lebanonization in the Middle East. Small territories controlled by local warlords, tribes, and paramilitary groups. While this may be a short-term victory for Israel, in the long run, it means living next door to uncontrollable chaos. Our second major prediction involves the new moves of China and Russia over a wounded Middle East. Who will fill the energy and strategic vacuum left by Iran? While Israel, with US support, takes on the role of the region's technological and military gendarme, it is inevitable that China will deploy more military assets to the area to protect its Belt and Road project. Finally, the concept of nuclear deterrence has completely changed. The fact that Iran's nuclear dream was ended by bombs will drive other actors in the region not to possess a nuclear weapon, but to hide it. This has ignited the fuse for a darker, more secretive, and more dangerous arms race over the next decade. When the sound of missiles fades, the remaining silence will not be the sound of peace, but of a profound exhaustion and uncertainty. Israel struck the heart of Iran, but the shockwaves of that blow continue to shake the entire world. Neither will oil return to its old price, nor will the borders in the Middle East remain as they once were. We have witnessed the greatest format operation in history. Now the question is there a place for us in this new order, or will we merely be statistics caught between these massive economic and military gears? Keep following our analyses, because the true winner of this war has yet to be determined. Subscribe to the channel to discover the next move in this colossal game of chess with us. Take care of yourselves, and stay close to the truth. Goodbye.